Welcome to Concussion, the podcast that dives deep into the world of brain trauma, breakthrough treatments, and inspiring stories. My name is Abby.
And I'm Travis.
Welcome to today's podcast. Today we're going to talk about what it's like for individuals that experience a concussion in those first few seconds or few minutes. So one of the big challenges, if you are hurt in a context where you're not expecting it, is being able to self-assess.
Self-assess. Did I just get a concussion? Because that is a question that I see a lot online. And is this a concussion?
Yeah. And imagine if you had to make that decision when you are just in a car accident, you're caught off guard completely. Nobody expects a collision like that. Even if you see it coming, the experience of expectation is usually a half a second at the most before you collide into somebody or somebody collides into you. And you have this massive impact, airbags, noises, everything that's going on around you. And then you have to self-assess. What did I hurt? And if you think about it, if you're trying to self-assess your body, you do it through moving it. You don't know if you just broke your leg until you either look down and see it's broken, or you try to move it and it won't move. So you have to make that same self-assessment for your brain, because within 5 to 10 minutes, at the longest, hopefully, someone's going to approach you and ask, do you need to go to the hospital?
Are you okay?
And a lot of times you don't know.
Yeah.
Even if it weren't for a head impact. Even if it weren't for a head impact. I've been in an accident and I got asked the same thing. Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And they pointed and they said, there's blood dripping down your arm. And I had no idea.
Because your body throws out endorphins to stop pain. So it's not too traumatic.
Whatever happens psychologically, I don't know, but I just know that you are not in the headspace to be able to make that self-determination of, am I hurt or not, in an instance like that, an unexpected physical impact. Yeah.
So, and I have a story about that. Years ago, I was starting a chainsaw and I was doing it the complete wrong way. And I know how to start a chainsaw, and I knew how to
pointed at your abdomen.
Yeah, pretty much.
There.
I was holding the trigger, and I was
just
holding the trigger and yanking the cord. And I know not to do that, but I was in a hurry, whatever. And I was 18 years old, 19 years old. And I felt it bump something. I felt my knee get bumped. And my friend, Chris, looks down and he says, that's going to need stitches. And I'm like, what? And I look down and my jeans are ripped open and my knee is also ripped open. And I'm like, oh yeah, look at that.
Okay. That's another good example, because that didn't involve nearly the same influx of information as it would if you were in a car accident.
Right.
So that self-assessment period is challenging because you cannot do it accurately. Just the way the body functions, you just cannot take that inventory right away. You can know you hit yourself on whatever it is. Like in a car accident, could be you hit the airbag, you hit the steering wheel, the windshield. But when you're asked that, are you okay? Or do you need to go to the hospital? A lot of times you don't have a true picture of what's going on.
Yeah.
So another context in which, I'm just bringing that up because from my side of things, for motor vehicle accidents, when they come into the clinic sometimes a week later, they thought they were perfectly fine. Some of them drove themselves home in another vehicle, or if their car was able to be driven after the accident. But anyway, they've all denied medical care or had the intuition to deny medical care if they were still conscious. It has not registered. They haven't had the chance to think of all the components that can be affected after hitting your head. So the assumption is, I feel okay right now, so I should be fine. And then sometimes it's not till later that night or the next morning that all of that sets in.
Yeah. So when I was in my motorcycle accident,
you wanted to go home.
I wanted to go home. I was like,
and
no, I'm fine.
Consciousness.
And I lost consciousness. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Let me go.
So if they find you after an accident where you have lost consciousness, they don't ask. You're going to the hospital either way.
Which is a good thing.
It absolutely is. But the other side of that is, let's say you're at work and you're involved in a big task. Somebody just does something mindless, or even everybody's doing everything as they should, and it ends up in a massive fall or an impact to your head. you still have to decide right then and there, am I okay?
Or how about this one? Maybe it's not even impact. Maybe it's a quick whiplash that you don't
And you
expect.
don't hit your head.
And you don't hit your head.
So it's not part of your self-assessment.
And people say, are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm freaking okay.
Yeah.
But,
and then later on, or the next day, or a couple days after, all of that changes. So the challenge with that being at work is, with as scrutinized as work injuries are, as soon as you get hurt, if you don't date stamp it, call the authorities, have something to document right then and there, I got hurt, this is what happened, it's so hard to defend the following day, the following week, or whenever those symptoms come to your attention.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like when there's an injury at work, like they want it reported right away.
Yeah.
Like right away. Like don't hesitate.
Yep. There's got to be witnesses. There's got to be reports. Like everything has to be so regimented for that incident to be recognized.
Yeah.
So that self-assessment period is much more critical because, as you explained, you could have just had a whiplash. So say, for instance, you got knocked off of something that was 14 inches high, you land on your bottom, get a whiplash injury, but you just know that your tailbone hurts, and that's all that you report. That concussion could go undetected through the work injury.
Yeah.
They just authorized treatment for your tailbone or your lower back. And then you have to fight this uphill battle of getting the concussion recognized and treated. So those are two examples of how that self-assessment process is really important, but near impossible to do.
Because who thinks about, oh, I should report a concussion. I fell, I didn't hit my head. I just like whiplashed, like my head like jerked around. Like who thinks, oh, I better report a concussion? And then your work is like, what do you mean you have a concussion? You didn't report that.
You didn't even hit your head.
Yeah. Well, how the heck was I supposed to know?
Yeah. You didn't notice it till you were driving home. Maybe you did something afterwards that affected how you drive home.
Yeah.
So that self-assessment part is a really challenging thing to do well. So those are in circumstances in which you're not expecting it. And then in circumstances where you're on the radar for it, but not expecting it, that falls more into the category of sports or extreme adventure things. And I found two examples that I shared with Travis. So Netflix has this series called Quarterback. And I brought this up to you once before because you hear these quarterbacks mic'd during games and you can hear how hard they get hit.
Yeah.
So in the first series, Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins, they showed a lot of or had them mic'd during a lot of plays that they showed on the show. And you can just hear how hard these guys are getting nailed to the ground, and you can hear the wind come out of them, and you can almost feel the ricochet that is shown on TV as their head comes back towards the ground. But they did another series that just recently came out. This one involved new quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins was still on there, which is pretty cool. You got to watch it. He's such a cool dude.
Who was it?
Kirk Cousins. He is the coolest quarterback.
Okay. Who does he play for?
That's a complicated question. So he played for the Vikings in the first one.
Okay.
And then he went to Atlanta this past year.
The Atlanta Falcons.
How did you know that?
The Simpsons.
Walk me through that.
There was a Simpsons episode, and for some reason they said the Atlanta Falcons a lot. I don't know why. It was a long time ago. It's just one of those things that stuck in my head.
This is the BBAA, up, up, down, down, right, left.
You got it.
Memorized for life. Okay, so yeah, the Atlanta Falcons. But no, you should watch it because it lets you get to know these guys, and they're all very different. And Kirk Cousins is he's just a fascinating guy. He's really relatable. He's got a very healthy perspective on his career and his sport. Anyway, within that new series, they're following new quarterbacks. So I sent Travis two clips, one of Joe Burrow getting hit and one of Jared Goff getting hit.
And I come to find out that we're not allowed to put them in our videos.
We are not. We can only talk about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
How'd you find that part out?
So it said copyright violation on my YouTube thing.
What?
And on Spotify. It's like copyright.
Wait, how did you get the clips to put on there?
The ones that we put on, remember?
The clips that we put on. Oh, from when we discussed other ones with Jason Tatum. And,
yes.
Oh, yeah, because if we take them from YouTube, yeah.
Well, apparently if you do anything with basketball or the NFL or anything like that,
boom, copyright violation.
Boom, copyright violation.
So we will talk about it in extreme detail.
Yes.
It will paint the picture for you. Okay, so let's first go through Joe Burrow's example. So because we cannot show the video, which I kind of expected we wouldn't be able to show that part since Netflix did the series. So we're just gonna describe what happens. So Joe is back in the pocket. He's going to make a pass. He sees two linemen coming at him
from the Steelers,
and he drives down into the ground in front of his helmet, kind of digs into the grass there a little bit. And immediately, Joe thought he was paralyzed. He panicked. He heard a crunch. He knew it was his neck and automatically thought, I can't get up.
Believed.
Yeah. So in this example, he saw it coming, knew what hit the ground, and heard something. And that later on, he suspected what he heard was possibly his jaw. And medical staff comes out and they ask him what's going on. And he immediately says his neck.
My neck.
When you watched that collision, what was your first thought?
Let me say again. I would say, like, from what I seen there.
What would you think he should be concerned about if he hurt?
Okay, let's watch. He's in the pocket. His back.
That's the body part you'd be worried about? This is Concussion, the podcast that dives deep. Brain trauma. You saw his helmet go down that hard?
So, okay, yeah. But I did see those two big guys land on his back. Yeah, okay, yeah, I would say concussion.
His first point of impact was his head.
Yes.
His head just drove straight down into the ground. But when they asked him, he said his neck.
My neck.
Because he heard something, and that's a body part that you can quickly identify with. Is it tough to turn my head? Which for him, it felt like it was. And he thought there would be an injury there. So medical staff comes up. They hold his neck still just to stabilize it until he's fully assessed. They go through everything to make sure he did not break his neck. But that's just kind of an example of how that self-assessment still might not lead you to the right area of concern. Like, yes, your neck might have hurt, but at no time did they have a chance to review like what could have happened to his head.
Right.
So that's something I found interesting just for the point of discussion when his first point of contact, so two very big individuals tackling him downward, and his head is the first point of contact with the ground because he's protecting the football, so his arms are in his, holding the ball against his stomach. First point of contact is his head, but his only association is I might have hurt my neck. But he knows that something's wrong, knows he needs to stop, get assessed. He was allowed to play on in that game. Now, even that compression force of just his head going downward, that might have been something that would be worth investigating a little bit more. And who knows, maybe after the game they looked at other components of what could have happened with that kind of impact to his head. But that self-assessment, in my thought process for what we're discussing here, took him away from the area that really should have been the primary source of investigation.
Yeah, the head.
Yeah, and he had a
brain specifically.
And he had a very exaggerated response for the possibility of his head being hurt.
Okay.
Right? Like he wanted to stop play, have everybody come out and assess him just for the possibility of his neck being hurt, but without any realization it could have been his head too. The second example, it's even really hard to tell what happened. So Jared Goff, he is the quarterback for Detroit
Lions.
What Simpsons episode was that? That probably was from the show Home Improvement.
Maybe.
Did you ever watch that show?
A little bit.
Then that's probably where you know Detroit Lions. Tim the Toolman Taylor was a big fan.
I think they're just such a well-known brand, like the Detroit Lions. I think I may be.
Do you think they win a lot?
No.
Okay. I should go through all the cities and see if you know the names of the.
I bet you I do.
I bet you do. We're going to save that till right after this.
Yeah.
So the second one's Jared Goff.
Jared Goff.
Now, the reason I brought this one to Travis's attention is because he got hit. It definitely affected his head. He got hit upwards, and he insisted he was playing on.
Okay.
So didn't do anything to react to it. Came over to the sidelines. people who were reviewing the game, they said word came in from upstairs that we need to pull him, contacted his athletic trainer and said, hey, he hit his head. He needs to get checked out. But Jared the entire time was like, I'm fine. I'm going back in. Even if you do check me out, I'm going back in. His adrenaline was at the point where he could not, even if something were wrong, he wouldn't be able to realize it. He was so focused on what needed to happen because he had just turned the ball over. So now there's even more pressure on him to make up for it. And he can't do that if he's being pulled for a concussion protocol.
Right.
So he was resistant the entire time, but they did end up checking him out. And you could hear the entire time he's like, can I go back out now? How much longer is this going to take? Not in that self-assessment phase of, is everything okay? So it just does make it very hard to be able to have an accurate gauge on what just happened and how does this affect me?
Yeah.
Now, what if he were to have had some consequences of that head impact and 2 or 3 plays later, he starts to get dizzy. He starts to get nauseous. In that state of mind that he's in, probably would have played through it. There's too much on the line, and it's not something on his radar. So that makes this such a unique injury in so many different ways that we've discussed for months now about how it's invisible. We can't see it. It's protected by the skull. We don't have a visible sign that we can really rely on unless it's so severe that somebody's unconscious or has dilated pupils. But it puts everyone in this risk of possibly playing on in sports and putting themselves at a greater risk for sustaining a more severe injury.
Yeah.
Because if the concussion did affect him and he has now his eyes move slower or he has a headache or he's dizzy, he's not going to be able to react like he was prior to the first impact, making him more likely to have a much more severe impact if somebody were coming at him to tackle him.
Yeah. And more of a risk of a non-contact lower body injury, 11.3 times more likely.
Research carryover. Very good. Yeah, so I thought that those were 2 interesting examples, how we had 2 very different responses. One of like, oh my gosh, I broke my neck. The other one of, you're not pulling me. I'm perfectly fine. I'm not coming out of this game. You don't have to assess me. And they were like pulling his teeth to force him to be checked out. But that first self-assessment wasn't accurate in either case.
Right. One was, I think I broke my neck. The other was, I'm fine.
Yes. Both of which played on in the game, but both of which the impact was to the head, wasn't on either of their radars. One of them, it was forcibly put on their radar and still very resistant to the idea that it could have been affected. But it just illustrated how hard it is for an individual to identify, I've injured my brain, I need to get checked out, or I need to remove myself from any other risky situation until I've been properly assessed.
So I want to bring up something real quick there. These guys are professional athletes that have probably heard quite a bit about concussions and concussion protocol and concussion recovery and what to expect if you get a concussion. Sorry. What about like kids, playing high school football? Like, I'm sure that they are not educated.
It might be on their might not be on their radar in the same way.
Right. And that's something that we're going to talk about in future episodes is kids and concussions. Like that's a
totally different animal because kids rely on adults for being able to detect risks or threat everywhere else. Like even just what's a safe situation for me to be in? They don't have that discretion yet. So especially when it comes to injury or risk for injury, they're depending on us even more. They don't have the education, insight, or experience to know that I just got my head kicked by somebody running past me at a high speed. They don't know what they even need to self-assess for. Or even if they do come to you and report something that sounds unrelated, we need to know how to be able to direct that kid. What if they come to you and say something along the lines of like I can't kick off my left leg anymore, something that would just indicate their balance is off. Like we wouldn't automatically assume, did you hit your head recently? Those are things that we have to be familiar enough with concussions to be able to extrapolate that information from whatever a kid might say. Yeah. Or they might say, why is everything over there pink?
Right.
You might just brush that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different components.
Yeah, and that's such a detailed episode that we'll have to dedicate, a full thing to that specifically. because that's very important.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, just to kind of bring some light to how hard it is to be able to diagnose a concussion right away, especially with how hard it is to self-assess all those symptoms that you would need to in order to get into the right place at the right time right away.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the episode discussing that in children and what you can do to be advocates for children is a future episode coming up. So subscribe, like, comment. If you have any questions or concerns about these topics, leave them in the comments. We read them all, and we'd love to get more specific with you.
Have a good day.
See ya.